is electric.
Hi everyone, welcome back for another energy update video. It's the end of November, time to share the November stats with you. And to be honest, I'm struggling with this video. This must be take 8, 9 or 10 by now, and I can't really work out why. And I think it's because there's so much to tell you, so much to share. I suddenly get into it and I'm starting to waffle a lot, and I don't want to do that. I want to share the information with you. I want you to watch this video because November videos are the most watched videos that I have for energy updates. They're really surprising how many people have been watching these. It's that pivotal month where suddenly the solar disappears and you struggle with energy. You've got less solar coming through, and does it justify having solar panels in winter? And all of those things. And now I've gone with electric heating. How are we coping in the colder weather with an air source heat pump? Well, we're actually using an air-to-air heat pump system here, Toshiba aircon units. This year we've installed extra solar panels, we've got a bigger home storage battery, Victron inverter with Pylontech batteries, we've got a Mixergy hot water tank that's gone in this year, and the air-to-air heating system. So all of these changes have gone in to complete our system, to make it more complete. I've taken it in steps, gone through one at a time, put in solar panels, a little bit more solar panels, a home storage battery, then the first steps towards testing out electric heating. Electric cars in there as well. Last year, for example, I'd actually sold my Mini electric. I didn't have an electric car in November last year. This year we've got two. Susan's got rid of the petrol Mini, so we've got an electric Golf, and I've got an electric Mini, so it's two electric cars. So we've got more electric being used. We've got electric heating, again, more electric being used, but we do have extra solar panels, and we do have the Mixergy hot water tank saving us energy. So we're spending more on energy in one place and we're saving it in the other place. It's all to do with the strategy. It's all to do with getting rid of gas, oil, petrol, diesel, getting rid of all the fossil fuels. Not just for the environmental benefits, but because I don't want to be under pressure of price rises from all of those energy companies and the oil companies, etc. Generating my own energy gives me the sense of freedom, of independence. It's been, I don't want to say a smug feeling, because I don't feel like that. It's a really good feeling though to see around you that there's an energy crisis, but to feel insulated from it. I don't feel stressed by it. I don't worry about electricity prices doubling or trebling as they have this year. This is the first year we've had the huge rises. So it is getting more expensive, and this is our first winter period of experiencing those higher energy bills. But as you'll find out in the video below, we've done so well. Our energy costs for the month are less than the one government payment for the month that we've had. So the £66 coming in is more than we've spent on electricity for the month. And that's for heating hot water, heating the house, and running two electric cars. It's unbelievable how cheap it is once you've got all of these systems in place. So I find it's a really good investment in my future to keep my bills really low. One of the things I've changed though in the month is we've added some draft excluders to our hallway. So because we have some rooms on the outside of the house, on the outer edges of the house that we keep coldest. For example, the kitchen. We're in and out of the kitchen back door quite often. We open the windows quite a lot. This room tends to be colder. So if the heating's on, the heat will go out all of the time, because we're constantly in and out. So we don't run as much heating in here, which means with the gaps under the doors, as you'll see in this picture here, you can get significant drafts going one way or the other, hot air going out or really cold air coming in. And I've got the same with our cloakroom door and our spare room door. So the hallway doors in the centre of the house really needed some draft excluders. Now it's tempting just to buy a little sausage snake, a sausage dog just to lay against the door, or there's all sorts of options for draft excluders. But I decided to go with a stick-on strip to stick on the door strip between the two rooms. We've got door strips that are slightly tilted, they're not very tilted very much, but it means this slope, I can put the sticky strip higher up if it's got a bigger gap to cover, or lower down if the gap is smaller to cover on the door. So I've been able to install these strips quite effectively. And I was apprehensive how it'd look. As you open a door, you'd see this dark brush type strip on the floor, and it doesn't look too bad at all. In fact, I've got used to it in just a couple of days, and they are effective. So sealing those gaps has really helped. The one thing I've noticed though, the more gaps I seal, the more airtight we make our home. So anyway, let's get on with the comparison of stats. Let's look at the data and compare to last month to see how bad it's got, but also look at how low the energy costs have been for the month, see how well we've done. How have you done with your solar generation and your energy costs? If you haven't moved across to a cheap rate tariff with a company like Octopus, you really ought to think about it. Paying peak rate must be an absolute killer right now. So trying to work out how to use your energy more smartly is as much an issue as it is buying systems that make your life better and save you money with electricity. Just using energy at the right times will help, because that will help you move to an energy tariff that means reduced prices. Octopus is brilliant. If you'd like to move across to Octopus, feel free to use my referral code. It's in the description of the video below. I don't know if the online link works anymore, or Octopus are now only taking people on when you make a phone call, and you just use and quote the referral code at the end of the link. I think mine is pinkrose718. One of the other things that I've been doing in November is installing these extra smart lights. When I first started with smart bulbs, I was of the opinion it's a bit of a gimmick, and it's not that difficult to turn on a light switch or turn it off, so why would you want just voice controls with Alexa to turn lights on and off? But the more I've used them, the more we've converted nearly all of our lights now to smart lights, so we can control them on timers, so they come on at sunrise and sunset. Because they're so low energy use, we effectively use them as night lights. Timers, though, for outside lights have been more of a challenge, because the floodlights that we have outside don't have bulbs that can be easily changed into smart lights. So the actual light fitting needs to be changed. So I've been looking at these. I tested one, it must be nearly a year ago, a Lumary smart floodlight. It's a multicolored, dimmable, smart light that works with Alexa and Samsung things and Google Home and all those sort of things. So it's a great floodlight and I really liked it. So I've worked out that if I could convert the other floodlights that we have in the house to these, then I would have a much smarter environment. Charlotte works shifts, and coming home at night, it is nicer to have lights on that she can see where she's going. So at the moment, one of these is plugged into our gazebo, one of them is plugged into an outside socket that I normally use for cutting the lawn with a lawnmower. And that's working really, really well. So I'm using the lights, but they're in, let's say, temporary positions until I can actually get them fitted higher up on the house to provide the right illumination in the right places. But Lumary Smart, I'm very impressed with them, and thank you to Lumary Smart for sending me this light. I haven't had to pay for it, and if I mentioned it on my videos, they're quite happy to send it to me. I am really impressed with it, and that's why I've now got a couple more, because they seem quite solid, they seem really waterproof, and the smart system that they use, the interface for it, and being able to make them dimmable and change the colours, I really like. I thought to start with, why would I want multicolored lights? I don't want a disco in my garden. But actually, having a slightly pink light or a slightly orange light has been really nice. It's not so bold a colour, and being able to dim it right down as well really helps. And what I want is enough light to see, enough light to illuminate, but not to be an annoyance to the neighbours. There's nothing worse than a neighbour with a floodlight that keeps turning on and off and comes through your windows, etc. So I've tried to be really careful to put these in places where it's not affecting our neighbours, and to keep them dimmed down as well in more subtle colours. And yeah, I was wrong. They're not a gimmick. They really are quite good, having them in multicolour as well, so you can choose what goes on. And yeah, at Christmas I can have them on red and green, and they can flash, etc. So we could have them as Christmas lights as well. So I've really installed it. I also have, just on top there as well, they've sent me some recessed ceiling lights. Now I haven't been able to install them. Again, I'm not an electrician, so I'm not comfortable with changing what we have, but the plan is either in my shed that I'm going to build next year, we can have those lights in, or I'm going to change some of the lights in the house. I might have them in the lounge, because that is one of the rooms where we don't have smart lights yet. So maybe we can get an electrician in and get those put in instead of the ceiling rose lights that we have. So let's start the stats off with the 36 kilowatt hours from our new array. So that's the 3 panels over the garage and the 4 panels over the east gable. Not the best, is it, compared to what we've had in other months? Not sure what's going on there with the Solace chart, not showing the month numbers correctly, but never mind, the data is correct. So it's a really small month for November. So the day-by-day chart, that shows what's really going on. The best day, the 4th of November, looks about 3.6, 3.7 kilowatts. And as you can see, some days, hardly anything at all. But the good news, these Solis inverters, even on the dullest of days, they generate something. They do keep going. So for comparison, this is our 3.9 kilowatt array. So it's the standard sort of array that people are putting with the 3.68 kilowatt inverter with a fit tariff on this one. 134.4 kilowatt hours. That's much more like it. But again, look at the difference compared to other months. Apart from January last year, it's the lowest we've had. This is the day-by-day chart for those that like to compare how we got on a daily basis with our standard 3.9 kilowatt array. Best day again, 4th of November, over 12 kilowatt hours. And two other days that got close to 12 kilowatt hours. Other than that, they're all quite low. Most of them 3 or under for this array. So add all of our solar arrays together, including the solar edge, and we get 246 kilowatt hours. This is the bars at the very right hand side of the graph. Absolutely tiny, isn't it? If we look at the November comparison though, you can see what's going on here. Just the blue bars, 134 is the lowest we've had since 2019. So it's a really low November for us. So even including the 36, we only come to 246. Last year was 285. So it has been a low month for us in November. Some people across the country, though, some people have had record Novembers, so I hear. Lucky you with all the sunshine. This is the day-by-day chart that's showing all of the solar arrays added together. And as you can see, on the 4th, we peaked at nearly 25 kilowatt hours for everything. But some days, hardly anything for all of the arrays together. And quite a lot of days there, 5 kilowatt hours or less. So it really hasn't been a great month for us. But with the battery, which we'll cover in a moment, it's been really, really good for energy costs. Energy costs then, 460.44 kilowatt hours. More than last month and more than last year. We'll get to that in a moment. £50.84 was the cost at an average price per kilowatt hour of 8.59 pence. Very, very happy with that. Ignore these agile numbers. This is a comparison chart showing what we could have spent if we were on the Agile product as well. So we've got the comparison there. It would have been twice as much if we'd have been on Agile. Anyway, ignore that. So comparing that to last month, October, we spent only £19.60 last month and imported only 75 kilowatt hours. So it has changed a lot. November, less solar, more energy usage, our price has gone up. But still, £50 is not a lot of money. £19 is less. But look at that figure up there on the top left, 10.47 pence a kilowatt hour. We've actually reduced our average price per kilowatt hour by using more off-peak energy. Last year though, November 21, 360 kilowatt hours. So we've used 100 kilowatt hours more and it only cost us $26.62. We're on a cheaper tariff. Now it's twice the price. But the average price per kilowatt hour back then, 5.31. So that's the big one. Energy prices have gone up. 5.31 was what we did spend last year. This time it's 8.6 pence a kilowatt hour. This chart puts that grid import into perspective. 460 kilowatt hours, not the highest of any month, but pretty much it's the second highest amount we've ever imported from the grid. So even though we're getting more efficient, more solar panels, more batteries, more everything else, we're actually importing a lot more because we're using more cheap rate energy. And as you'd expect, with not a lot of solar energy for the month of November, we only exported 19 kilowatt hours. A few chunks of that were at the beginning of the month where we did have some sunny days, but most of that was just a few tenths every day. On to usage then, and let's start with the My Energy Eddy for heating our hot water. We're heating by boosting the Eddy device using the grid energy first thing in the morning, mostly, and then topping it up with solar energy during the day if there's any spare. 77.6 kilowatt hours through the Eddy. 2 or 3 kilowatt hours more added up to 80.1 kilowatt hours is what we used for hot water. The extra was the energy that the Mixergy tank used itself for its cleanse cycle. But those 80 kilowatt hours, if you compare that to last November, we actually consumed 156.9 kilowatt hours. That's almost half, with almost half our hot water usage. Partly we've had a mild November, but partly it's the efficiency of the Mixergy tank. Those kilowatt hours that we've saved and the extra we got from the extra solar panels have really helped because we put 238.8 kilowatt hours into the Zappy device to charge our 2 electric cars. 238 kilowatts, that's a big chunk of energy. Most of that, again, imported cheap off-peak rate from Octopus Go. It's really handy at just 7.5 pence a kilowatt hour. The mileage on the cars this month, the Mini is at 5,478 miles and the Golf at 9,509 miles. This month we did 305 miles in the Mini, 719 miles in the Golf. Onto the battery then, and we've used 174 kilowatt hours this month from the batteries, from the PylonTech batteries. This Victron chart is showing in blue at the top, it's showing the depth of discharge. At the top it's 100%, and the lower, the deeper the blue comes, then the more of the depth of the battery we've actually used. You can see here it's highlighted 81 to 100%. That was on one day where we didn't use much of the battery at all. So the lowest we went down to on the discharge was only 81%. So we had a huge amount of battery left. Must have been quite a warm day. Then on some of the worst days when we've used the battery for heating overnight, it went down to 36%. So that's the lowest we've been so far, 36%. And 10% of that has to be reserved. So it's only 26% of the battery left. A quarter of the battery still left to go. So it can get colder, we can use the heating more. We're still not using peak rate energy. On to what's probably my favourite chart, the individual breakdown of energy usage. The only odd thing to note here is the Zappy and the Eddy showing lots of solar values, and I'm not sure how accurate they are. I don't think we've done 101 kilowatt hours of solar input into the Zappy in our electric cars this month. So the totals are correct when you add them together, but the breakdown, the Zappy and Eddy is including some bits that I don't think it really should. Anyway, the third item there, Toshiba air conditioning, 95 kilowatt hours for our heating. That's the majority of our heating. That's a really good number. Very happy with that. Moving down, Charlotte's radiator. That's a Best electric radiator. It's an individual radiator, electric again, obviously. 22.49 kilowatt hours to keep her room warm when she needs it. The ensuite, the bathroom and the cloakroom, they're all electric immersions in the radiator, not connected to the oil boiler anymore. So the ensuite, which is the one, it's the biggest radiator, 19.65 kilowatt hours. The bathroom was 8.06 kilowatt hours and the cloakroom just 7.67 kilowatt hours. So add them together and it's a big chunk of energy, you know, Charlotte's and the three bathrooms, 22, 30, 41... 49, 56 kilowatt hours, so it's quite a chunk by comparison to the main heater of the Toshiba at 95. The other two items on there are the dehumidifier at 17.61, that's a heat pump dehumidifier, and the EcoAir dehumidifier, that's a desiccant one, only 7 kilowatt hours, but collectively they're for drying the rooms, keeping the humidity down, but also drying laundry, so that's what we use the two of those for. Another couple of individual monitors, but not Casa smart plugs and not integrated to Home Assistant, so I'm doing those separately. That's our outside light circuit, 0.22 kilowatt hours for the month. That's really good. Good old LED lights. And the bike charger for Charlotte, just 1.33 kilowatt hours, because unfortunately her e-bike has broken. And the last two smart plugs that we've got, microwave 4.14 kilowatt hours and air fryer 6 kilowatt hours. Those two I'm going to move over to Casa smart plugs. This chart's not the easiest to see with all the different shades of yellow and orange, but it's showing the individual heating devices and how much we're using on a day-by-day basis. What's important here is that you can see the block of colour is much greater at the end of the month, and that's when we're using a lot more heating because it's a lot colder. This is one of the newer graphs that I can now start showing. It's the Shelly Power Monitor that's monitoring via a CT the air conditioning units, and it's showing here that our power usage on a day-by-day basis. Very, very pleased with this. We're averaging, 2, 3, 4 kilowatt hours a day, peaking at 9 kilowatt hours on the coldest day in November. Just a couple more charts to go now. This is the Mixergy chart that's showing how much hot water we used for the month. And we're down again. In November, we didn't use as much as September or October. 2,294 litres worth of hot water is what we used. That's an average of just 76 litres a day, and considering it's a 150 litre tank, I think that puts it into perspective that we don't need to heat the entire tank. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to hearing some of the discussion in the comments below. Been a great month, and so much to share. Sorry these videos go on. It is a really long journey, and there's just lots to see and lots to do, and I hope you're gaining from it too. I hope more people are finding what I'm finding, that there are things you can do, you know, whether it's just insulating, whether it's changing of technology, whether it's just changing light bulbs. There are things we can do to make our lives better, to reduce emissions, to help the grid, to save money, to not get us worried about rising energy bills. There are things that we can do, and I hope I'm proving to be a good example of that, because that's what I want to do. I want to do these things and share the experience, share the mistakes, share the successes, and I hope that's working. Take care. See you again soon for more videos about all these great things. Bye for now.